Hello, and a very warm welcome to the Voices of the Impact Economy, a series where we talk about everything impact, from bold ideas and innovative finance to grassroots change makers and ecosystem builders. We explore how people everywhere are reimagining what growth, equity, and sustainability really need. In today's episode, we are turning our lens on the impact ecosystem itself and asking a very critical question. Are we solving the right problems or just funding the easy ones? At the center of that rethink is Social Alpha, a platform that's not just investing in innovation, but reshaping how we define it. From backing science driven entrepreneurs to building full stack support for early stage ventures, Social Alpha is trying to do what most others avoid: take risks for long term systems level change. Joining me today is Manoj Kumar, founder Social Alpha, and we are unpacking where the current models fall short, what transformation actually requires, and why the future of impact may need to look very, very different from the past. Manoj, first of all, welcome to the Voices of the Impact Economy.
Thank you, Mugdha. Thanks for inviting me. It's really a
And
privilege.
let me start with the very basic foundational questions with question, which is, in your view, where is the current impact ecosystem falling short? I mean, we are seeing big headlines about funding and measurable impact, but what are we missing on the ground?
Thanks, Mugdha. This is really the most important and foundational question. And we all want to create impact, whether we are in business, whether we are in philanthropy, whether we are in impact investment or any area, or even in academia, right? I think the most important part of creating impact is to identify what is the problem that you are trying to solve, right? Why does that problem exist? What has been done in order to solve that problem, right? How are we going to solve it, right? And this whole thesis driven approach can take us to the demand side and eventually explore whether there is an opportunity to create markets,
Hmm.
right? And then basically growth, what we call impact economy, right? I think the biggest flaw today, what used to happen intuitively in past, right? That impact has become an asset class or a strategy rather than a desired or a mission to solve the problem, right? And the shift is not doing really well to the sector. It's not something new. Like if you look at the history, the biggest impact creator was government. We had public sector, which is a classic example of social entrepreneurship, where because country did not have enough capital, so public sector emerged. If we had a lot of capital, probably we would have emergence of private sector in the beginning of 1950s or 60s, right?
Right.
But public sector played a very big role in India's economy. And then cooperative movement, right? Organizations like Amul got created, right? And 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 the white revolution happened in cooperative sector, right? So we have seen that model of impact. We have seen Khadi Gramodyog and Gandhi Ashram as the impact model, right? In modern times, we have seen Selco in solar lighting. We have seen Arvind Eye Care, right? So we have seen a lot of examples in microfinance and dairy and agri value chain. So different people at different point in time in our country's evolution have addressed impact in a in a different way, right? We had a variety of social entrepreneurship experiments. Some of them have been very successful, right? And those social entrepreneurship experiments have been in private sector, in public sector, in cooperative, and in NGOs, right? So across the sector, we have seen successful social entrepreneurs. I think right now, the fundamental question in this space is what are those remaining problems that require solution, right? It could be wastewater treatment. It could be making agriculture more profitable and more efficient for smallholder farmers. It could be access to screening and diagnostic devices for rural and marginalized populations. Or it
Right.
could be climate change and avoiding greenhouse gas emission, addressing plastic pollution or soil regeneration. So identifying the problems and then building a thesis around that to solve those problems is the approach that I think we need to take going forward, right? So that the capital can be deployed in a very efficient way uh, across these problems and identifying those innovations, de-risking innovations and making them deployment ready and then scaling them. So that is where I think the focus should be.
Always wonder that in a country like India, where we have so many issues, where we have so many problems, how do change makers prioritize what is actually the biggest problem to solve? And then does it become about कि फंड कहाँ से आ रहे हैं तो वहां पे काम करना चाहिए या दूसरे लोग जो कोलैबोरेट करना चाह रहे हैं उनकी क्या सोच है what are those things that actually define what problem is going to be picked up?
Yeah. Actually, a lot of this also depends upon who you are and where you are coming from, right?
Right.
Are you as an individual passionate about a problem that you want to solve in your lifetime or contribute, right? So sometimes you decide, like some people are very passionate about education or, mental health, so they may start working on that. But I think the worst thing to do is to follow the money, right?
Yeah.
At because funding is available for this, so let me do this. Because funding should not be the reason for you starting a social enterprise or an NGO, right? Funding is the means to that. That should not be the reason for starting up. And I think that's where the trap is. That you want to be a service provider to the funder, then anybody can do it, right? Then you are basically becoming a services company, taking orders from the funders and implementing it.
Correct.
Or you want to do some system level change, then identify your areas of interest. So I cannot comment on others, but I can give you my example, right? When I started exploring opportunities in the sector, I asked myself, no, what should I do? I can go and work with an NGO because there is no need for me to start an NGO in a country where you already have so many NGOs, right? I didn't want to do another startup or another. So what do I do? So I said, okay, I will not do anything. I'll just keep supporting organizations that I relate to. But then I realized that there's one gap that I can try to fix, and that is innovation, right?
Right.
So we started Social Alpha with a very simple, objective that we need to bring more innovation to the social sector, right? And then this one liner evolved over a period of time that how do we look at it, science and technology innovations to fix some of the gaps that we have identified as the problem area, right? So it's the easiest way to decide is to identify one big gap and work on that. So I thought of innovation as cutting, a theme that cuts across all the areas, right? And then we narrowed down on, do we need to focus on innovation in airlines industry or pharma industry? No. Where do we focus? We focus on climate change, we focus on livelihoods, we focus on healthcare. So we said, okay, we will focus on innovation in areas where market failure is there. If market is not doing something, that means it's a gap area. So then the theory of change evolves, right? So we said, okay, we start with innovation to address market failure using science and technology. And that's how we ended up creating the architecture.
Manoj, let's talk about scale. There aren't many platforms, of course, like Social Alpha out there. Certainly not enough to meet the size and urgency of the problems we are trying to solve. What do you think about this, and what should we expect to see from entrepreneurs who are really trying to scale up, who really want to make an impact not just in that space, but can take the impact? Because in India, it is so difficult to actually adopt anything that has been successful abroad because of the sheer level of complications that come with the fact that we are so many. So, what do you think about scale? When we talk about scale, how should we be defining scale, or how should people be looking at scale?
So I that's a great question, Mugdha, because scale to different people means different things also, right? But the traditional definition of a scale that comes from mainstream business, that more number of customers, more markets there, more geographical reach. I think that's slightly misleading in this space, because I think in social sector you need to think of scale as your ability to solve a problem and create a playbook to solve that problem. Right. Now, whether you want to scale or not will depend upon whether you have access to everything that is required to scale. Right. So you can have a scale of scenario where you have more capital, so you deploy more capital and you scale. But there could be a scenario where you create a playbook where and open source it, then everybody else copies your playbook, contextualizes it, adds their incremental value to it, and then replicates, right? Or there could be scale which is very localized. It's like you start working in healthcare in a village, but say I don't want to scale, but I want to do education, livelihoods, sustainability in the same geography, right? How you scale, whether you scale up or scale out, scale deep, will all depend upon how replicable is your strategy, right? uh, the meaning of scale in telecom or banking or insurance can be very different, right? Meaning of scale in social sector is it has to start with ability to solve a problem, right?
Correct.
Once you have a solution, whether that solution can scale or not does not on it not necessary that it depends on the solution itself. It depends upon the larger ecosystem, right? Regulation can depend upon regulation. It can depend upon availability of capital, right? Or maybe you are not the right person to scale it, right? Maybe someone else is the right person to scale it, right? Scale is contextual and depends upon the larger environment and ecosystem, and not only on the innovation and enterprise.
Manoj, that brings me to a very deep and personal question, which is how does a social entrepreneur or a change maker preserve their own mental health? You know, it's so easy to get disheartened. It's so easy to feel कि नहीं हो पा रहा है. It is so easy to say that, why are people not interested? I'll give you my example, I keep talking about neurodiversity because I'm so personally attached to it, but then I meet people who are like least interested in it, right? And their life goes on. And at those times, I feel कि क्या मेरा काम मायने भी रखता है, right? And even we start to equate our work with how many people is it going to, right? uh, how do you keep that together?
That is so that's tough, but I think there are two or three things we must uh, have a realization for. Ki one, I'm doing it for my happiness.
Hmm.
And in the process, if I end up doing something for others, that's the byproduct of it. If
That's a
we
beautiful thought.
no, if we go as someone who is doing good for the society or other, that's a very misleading, and
It's a
very
validation you're seeking.
yeah. So the best thing is I do what I like, right? And it makes me happy. And by the way, while doing this, it has some positive output and outcome for the society,
Full
for the
analogy.
planet. I think that's really important, right? Then you are not blaming others for roadblock.
Yeah.
And it's like an artist making art, not getting bothered whether art gallery is buying and selling it or not, right? Or a theater artist is not worried about people buying ticket in the box office or not. I love, and by the way, if this film gets hit, I'll also make money, right? So that kind of
Yeah.
approach. Yeah. One is this swant sukha hai jisko bolte na apni khushi ke लिए.
Yeah.
Yeah. The second thing is that you know accept that we are all different people, diverse people. So everybody may not be interested in my idea or my work, right?
Hmm.
Do I find my tribe, right? People who I can align with or people who can align with me, and then working with that, right? So again, you have to pick and choose who you like to work with. So you have to be a little selfish in this whole thing, right? Uh, and third, you know, I think one of the things that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle that they end up burning out in this whole process, right?
Yes.
Uh, and to avoid that burn, thinking of co-founders and thinking of, co-travelers early is really important, because it's very lonely at the top when you don't have
Yes.
members or co-travelers. You don't know who to share with. You don't know who to
True.
depend upon. You don't know who will, if something happens to you, then who takes over the baton, right? Those are, so having co-founding teams is something that I personally haven't practiced well, but I preach others that that's really important, and I should have done that better. Yeah, that's a better.
Mm. No, that's a good advice, because I do feel, even with I run a movement called Not That Different, on neurodiversity, and I have two lovely co-founders, who are with me, and the amount of work we've been able to do because we are three of us, and then we have co-collaborators is actually amazing, and then you realize um, that just handling it by yourself is can cause so much fatigue. But that's so true. I completely agree with that. Um, if say people who are watching, and if some of them are change makers, they want to do something differently. They're a startup founder or roots innovator who wants to partner with Social Alpha. How should they be thinking of approaching this? What are the common values that you look for when you are working with somebody? What are you looking beyond the pitch deck really when you're meeting people?
So actually, a pitch deck is overrated. So we actually do not pay much attention to that. I don't think anybody invests based on pitch deck also, right? So, I think we must recognize that we have used a lot of thinking business knowledge in past for building new businesses and new models. I think the time has come when we start giving science and technology little more importance in our business models and build products, because then, as your earlier question on scale becomes easier and non-linear with products, right? Products scale faster than services, but products require more capital in R&D stage to make them deployment ready, right? So, um, my very simple pitch to the entrepreneurs and innovators is identify a problem which has potential to solve social environmental issues, but also has the potential to create new markets, right? So that it's not only impactful but also potentially sustainable in its future. Uh, Identify science and technology innovations, whether they are from your own research or your co-founders' research, and take them from lab to market. Don't just do R&D and pilot, but also do deployment and scale, right? And find the right partners in this journey. Sometimes you will need grant money, sometimes you need equity money, sometimes you may need debt. So depending upon where you are in your entrepreneurial journey, you may need different type of capital, you may need different type of supporters, right? And something that is very important here is the perseverance and grit, right? It's very easy to burn out. It's very easy to give up. A lot of people work hard for a few years and then give up. But if you see the successful ones in this space, they have extremely high determination. It's all about grit, perseverance, patience, and this ability of not giving up despite setbacks, right? And that's what differentiates entrepreneurs from rest of the crowd, right?
I think resilience has to be at the core of the DNA.
Resilience, endurance, perseverance, right? These are some keywords which will keep
Right.
coming to your work.
Manoj, before I let you go, one last question. What does Social Alpha's next few years look like? What are you excited about? What are the kind of partnerships you're chasing? And what are the work you are trying to scale? Tell me more about what that looks like.
So Mugdha, when we started, uh, you know, 10 years, more than a decade back, it was a hobby project. I never thought we will even formally start Social Alpha, right? And then I started seeing some reasonably good result of our experiments. So I said, okay, let's form an organization. Then, you know, grew it, and now we have, you know, a reasonably good footprint across the country, working across sustainability, climate, health, livelihoods. I think a lot of work that we do is about addressing market failure, right? So I think in short term, we should try to consolidate and and see what all problems can be solved through innovations and entrepreneurship, and and help them get to a deployment readiness space, but attract more and more market capital. I think in long term we should not even exist, right? Because what we do should be done by the markets. And if markets are doing that, and the state is supporting that, then non-profits really do not have a role to play there. But today, unfortunately, because of this big gap between science and society, we need somebody who can take this translation research from lab to market to deployment, and get communities acceptance or adoption or endorsement for these solutions. So I think we have a role to play next few years, but our success should be in our, you know, its appearance and not in our continuity. So if you and I meet say 10 year down the line and I say, oh, we have grown social alpha, now we have 1,000 people, and we that is not success, that is failure. Success is that I meet you after 5 years and I say I'm into my next gig because social alpha achieved what it was supposed to do, and it's on a back burner for me now. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. And are there any burning fields or burning problems that you see that need to be fixed in in the next few years for India?
I think a lot of these issues in livelihoods, healthcare, climate, etc., require investments. The biggest investor in social sector in India is government, right?
Correct.
But government cannot take care of everything, right? You need more capital, and private sector is interested in where they can create value.
Correct.
So there's a gap, right? And I think this gap can be filled by CSR and philanthropy. So I think Indian philanthropy needs to prioritize innovation more than they do today. Indian philanthropy is investment in institution building or charity has been there, but we need more philanthropy in innovation, and that would help the sector.
Fantastic. Manoj, thank you so much for laying out everything so clearly. This was such a privilege and pleasure. And what really stands out is that Social Alpha isn't just filling gaps, it's trying to redesign the blueprint itself, and one that supports mission first entrepreneurs, nurturers, riskier riskier bets, and innovation and science and technology that can come together. So, to all our listeners, if this conversation sparked something for you, share it forward, tag us, follow the Voices of the Impact Economy for more episodes. And we are trying to build tomorrow's solution with change makers by bringing their voices together. So, this is the Voices of the Impact Economy brought to you by FES India, Second Nature Sustainable Solutions. And I'm Mukta Kalra. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.